Okay, so I'm convinced that whatever branch of philosophy you like the most says a lot about you. I think this is probably way more accurate than your zodiac sign. So today I'm just gonna go through all the different branches of philosophy and tell you what I think that says about you, if that one's your favorite. So let's just start, shall we? First and foremost, there's axiology, which is the study of the nature of value and valuation. This is a branch of philosophy that deals with the study of values and value systems. It's concerned with understanding what is valuable or worthwhile in life, like what makes something bad or good, and how to rank values in relation to each other. It also looks at the way in which values influence human behavior, such as decision making and social organization. Now, this is important in many different fields, including ethics, political philosophy, aesthetics, psychology, and sociology. Now, I think my thoughts on axiology is that this is actually what the subject of economy should look like if it was actually studying economy and not just learning how to apply one specific economic theory as it is today. I do think, however, that people who are really into this field are most likely also into utilitarianism and effective altruism. And we all know that there's really only one type of person who actually makes up this movement, and that is crypto bros. So yeah, if you like axiology, I'm guessing that you're very much into overpriced coffee and getting your trading tips from Reddit. And you may or may not have to go to jail in the next 10 years because you were running a crypto scam. Kitten. And then there's metaphysics. And metaphysics is concerned with the fundamental nature of reality and the universe. It seeks to understand the nature of existence, the relationship between mind and matter, the structure of space and time, and the fundamental principles that govern the universe. Now, metaphysics is often concerned with questions that I think are considered quite abstract and speculative, such as the nature of reality, the existence of God, and the relationship between mind and body, and the possibility or impossibility of free will. It seeks to answer questions that cannot be answered by empirical observation or scientific experimentation, at least insofar as we've been able to do today. Now, my thoughts on metaphysics is that this is a very stoner branch of philosophy, because in most metaphysics lectures that I've had, when you go out in the breaks and you're discussing what you learned, it's very hard to tell if you were just coming out of a metaphysics lecture or if we all just sat in a room and ate shrooms. So, deducing from that, I think people who actually do like eating shrooms and smoking weed and doing hallucinogenics in general are usually the type of people who really fucking love metaphysics. That's why I think if you like metaphysics, you're probably a stoner. Either that, or you might just be a huge sci-fi nerd, because there are very many prominent and contemporary philosophers who have contributed to the field of metaphysics, which is when you read their theories about the universe and time and space. Take Lewis, for example. He believes that there are different universes, that time travel is theoretically possible, and a lot more quirky shit. And that to me is either a Star Wars movie or one of the latest Marvel movies. So either you're a stoner, you're a sci-fi nerd, or you might just also be a literal child. Now, epistemology is the study of nature, origin, and limits of human knowledge. This is a branch of philosophy that deals with the sources and limitations of knowledge. It seeks to understand how we know what we know, what counts as knowledge, how we can justify our beliefs and our claims to knowledge. And it's concerned with questions such as what knowledge is, how is knowledge acquired, how can we distinguish between knowledge and opinion, and what are the criteria for justifying our beliefs. Epistemology is important because it underpins many other fields of study, including science, mathematics, ethics, and politics. And by understanding the nature of knowledge, we can gain insights into different fields of study that are related to how we can evaluate different claims to knowledge. Now, thinking too much about what you know or don't know can make you sort of naturally come to the conclusion that you don't know anything. And perhaps even that you cannot ever for sure know if you know anything. Because of this, because of the nature of how you have to think when you study epistemology, I'd say that people who do so are probably the people who are most likely the closest to a mental breakdown, because you're the type of person that's just one question away from like giving up and having a hard time trusting anyone. The whole fake news movement and how people go crazy doubting anything like they read in the media. I feel like epistemology people are that, but just like on crack, because they don't think that they just can't trust the government or some media companies. They just think you can't really trust anything at all. And that's pretty anxiety inducing. So yeah, I think you're fucking crazy if you prefer epistemology, most likely. Then we have ethics philosophy, which is the study of right and wrong in human behavior. This is a branch of philosophy that deals with moral principles and values. It's concerned with understanding what's right and wrong, what's good and bad, just and unjust, and how we should act in different situations. Also, how we should live. Ethics philosophy explores questions such as what's the relationship between morality and religion, what are different ethical theories and how do they differ from each other, and how can we determine what is morally right or wrong in a given situation. Ethics philosophy is important because it helps us understand how to make ethical decisions and how to live a moral life. It's relevant to many different areas of human activity, including politics, business, medicine, and personal relationships. Now, in my humble opinion, if you study ethics, you're either a very good person, probably religious, or just convinced that there is a right and wrong, like a very righteous person, or you're the literal devil. I think ethics is a bit of like how criminology is in that way. Either people study criminology because they are really good people themselves and they want to help there be less crime in the world, and to do that they understand how crime works, or they're people who end up being exposed as being serial killers like in their free time. And in that same way, I think some people use studying ethics as a way to learn how to be the least ethical person that you could be, and also learn how to excuse it with whatever bullshit theory you can come up with. It's like that Harvard professor who genuinely suggested that all old people in Japan should kill themselves because that's like the most ethical thing to do for the rest of the population of Japan. You know, it's that kind of vibe. We also have aesthetics, which is the study of beauty and taste, and this is a branch of philosophy that deals with the nature of beauty and art and the principles that govern our experience and evaluation of them. And it's concerned with understanding what makes something beautiful, how we appreciate and judge art, and the role of aesthetics in human life. So people who study aesthetic philosophy ask questions such as what is beauty, what is the relationship between beauty and truth, how do we experience beauty, how do we evaluate art, what is the role of art in human life. This is an important field because it relates to figuring out how art can contribute to our well-being and our cultural development. People would probably assume that aesthetic philosophers would just be vain and perhaps quite good-looking people, but I'd actually argue that usually these people who love aesthetic philosophy are just failed artists who now manages to make something as interesting and riveting as art into a boring analysis of an otherwise exciting subject. Yeah. And then there's logic, which is the study of nature and types of logic. Logic is the branch of philosophy that studies the principles of reasoning and argumentation, and it is concerned with understanding how we can arrive at valid conclusions based on a set of premises, essentially, and how we can evaluate the strength of an argument. Now, in logic, you explore questions such as what's a sound argument, what are the forms of logical inference, what's deductive reasoning, what's inductive reasoning, what are the fallacies of reasoning, and how can we avoid them? Things like this. This field is important because it provides us with tools to evaluate the validity of arguments and to arrive at well-reasoned conclusions, and it's relevant to different fields of human activity, including science, law, and politics. Now, I might be saying this because I'm currently dealing with having to do a lot of logic, but if you love this shit, you're a fucking nerd and probably extremely annoying. You're the type of person to correct people's grammar or use of a word when it is very much not asked for. And considering that the only fields of study that use formal logic and argumentation is philosophy and law, you're most likely also to be a debate lord type person who will try to crush their opponents with facts and logic. Maybe you might also like people like Ben Shapiro or be stuck in 2016, or you might just be German. Last but not least, we have political philosophy, which is a branch of philosophy that explores the nature of government, our political systems, and political behavior. This field is concerned with understanding the fundamental principles of political organization and how they relate to individual rights, social justice, and the common good. Now, political philosophy is important because it can help us to understand the nature of political systems and to evaluate the merits of different political ideas and institutions. It's relevant for many, many different areas of human activity, obviously, including law, economics, international relations, and public policy. If this is your favorite type of philosophy, you're probably a revolutionary. You're into politics, but even more so than political students or politicians are into politics, because the type of people who study politics or want to become politicians are trying to act within the system, and you are definitely trying to straight up change the whole thing. Nobody loves political philosophy because they're just happy with the current system that we're in. No. You probably liked communists growing up, or worse, you might have been an anarchist. And now you probably wouldn't mind being a part of a coup d'etat if it was to happen anytime soon. But you're probably fun at parties though. Alright, those were all my judgments and beliefs about the different branches of philosophy. I hope I didn't offend you. If I did, I'm sorry. Yeah.